Chapter 21. Staying Overnight. Miss Xiang's eyes twitched as she closed her book to greet the two of them in a cool, icy tone. Thank you for bringing Little Green back. My name is Shang Yuan. The parrot, upon seeing Shang Yuan as if it had found a savior, flapped its wings frantically and tried to escape from Lu Yang. Lu Yang released it, letting the parrot fly freely around the room. Next time, be more careful. Luckily, this parrot had been circling around Taiping Township. If it had flown elsewhere, we'd really never be able to find it, Lu Yang said with a smile. Shang Yuan looked at the two, whose refined attire immediately marked them as seasoned, chivalrous heroes of the martial world. Their outfits were those recommended by the task hall of Wendao Zone. Dressing this way made one look like a worldly, gallant hero. Shang Yuan's tone was somewhat distant. Whether out of her nature or for other reasons, she said, "Now that Little Green is back, you two can leave." Tao Tianyi furrowed her brows slightly, displeased by the young lady's attitude. Acting as if he hadn't heard the command to leave, Lu Yang grinned and said, "Come on, let's chat a bit. The Shang family is quite hospitable. They might even let us stay overnight." Shang Yuan scoffed. "The Shang family welcoming you doesn't mean that I welcome you. You'd better leave soon. It's best if you depart Taiping Township." But Taiping Township doesn't have any demons or monsters. Besides, you haven't left the Shang family in ages. Don't you want to hear about the world outside? Lu Yang replied. Shang Yuan paused, surprised by Lu Yang's words. Her tone softened a bit as she asked, "Where do you two come from? I haven't left home for nearly a month. Could you share some tales of the martial world?" "We come from Wendao Zone, one of the 5 great immortal sects, and we are Foundation Establishment disciples. We're here in Taiping Township because we heard a demon bird has been troubling the locals." Lu Yang began speaking in a calm, gentle tone. He was an excellent storyteller. Upon hearing that both were Foundation Establishment disciples, a spark of joy lit in Shang Yuan's eyes. The three chatted for a while. Lu Yang's vivid descriptions of the life of cultivators roaming the world captivated Shang Yuan so much that she too felt the desire to venture out and see the vast, wondrous world. "I want to cultivate, but my father won't allow it. He says that cultivation is too dangerous. If he hadn't been lucky during his explorations in ancient tombs, he would have died long ago," Shang Yuan said bitterly. "I've asked him several times about his experiences, but he always refuses to share." Lu Yang felt a pang of sympathy. Clearly, the Shang family head must have a story of his own. "What is our family head's cultivation level?" Lu Yang inquired. Shang Yuan, recalling her father's boastful demeanor, rolled her eyes. He used to be at the 9th level of Qi training, but after a great calamity, he barely survived. Now his cultivation has dropped to the 4th or 5th level. Tao Tianyi commented, "That's not too bad. There aren't many cultivators in Taiping Township. The highest local official is only at the 7th level of Qi training. Living at the 4th or 5th level is perfectly fine, and besides, our family head still has some underlying strength." Sighing, Shang Yuan added, "But I don't want to be confined to Tsuhe County. I want to roam the martial world and see this magnificent, mysterious realm. We're about the same age. You're already a Foundation Establishment disciple, and I haven't even begun Qi training." Just then, Steward Zhang knocked on the door and announced, "Miss, dinner is ready. Also, esteemed young heroes, the master has specifically instructed that since it's late, you should dine and stay overnight before departing." He added, "The master, his wife, and brother Huang are already waiting." "All right, we'll come," Lu Yang replied. Tao Tianyi originally wanted to decline, but Lu Yang interjected, "Come on. I told you Shang family people are warm and welcoming. They'll let us stay overnight. Since they're being kind, why not accept it?" At the dining table, the Shang family head sat in the position of honor, chatting animatedly with brother Huang. Although the food wasn't as sumptuous as that of Wendao Zone, it was still quite tasty. Steward Zhang and the maids stood respectfully by, attending to everyone. After a delightful meal, brother Huang returned home, while Lu Yang and Tao Tianyi stayed overnight in the East Wing room, with only a wall separating them. Tao Tianyi wasn't very keen on sleeping there. She was extremely particular about beds. Apart from the bed in Wendao Zong's cave, where she would fall asleep instantly, she usually had to lie down for a long time before she could sleep in any other place. She knew it wasn't a good habit. Cultivators often have to endure rough conditions, but she hadn't yet managed to change it. "Senior brother Lu, you can sleep anywhere," Tao Tianyi murmured softly to herself with a slight smile, then yawned. Today, at least I slept early. Maybe I'll finally get a good rest, Lu Yang said. Suddenly, Tao Tianye's eyes widened in alarm. Wait, something's wrong. Someone has poisoned the food. She turned abruptly to grab her thousand illusion umbrella to cast a protective barrier, but discovered that her internal spiritual energy was running clumsily and couldn't be properly activated. Her heart raced. Who could have surreptitiously poisoned us? This poison is targeted at cultivators. For someone to act despite knowing we are cultivators, they must be a cultivator too. In the Xiang family, aside from the family head, she hadn't noticed anyone else with cultivation abilities. Could it be the Xiang family head? Or perhaps someone with a cultivation level higher than hers, making them undetectable? And what about senior brother Lu? A whirlwind of questions flooded Tao Tianye's mind, leaving her no time to ponder further. When suddenly light, brisk footsteps sounded outside the room. The door swung open, and Steward Zhang entered with measured, purposeful steps and a smile that was both excited and cruel. You! Tao Tianyi glared at him in shock. She hadn't expected Steward Zhang to appear. Her heart sank instantly. Not being able to tell whether Steward Zhang was a cultivator suggested his cultivation might be higher than hers. In his hand he held a skinning knife. Even from 5 paces away, Tao Tianyi could feel the intense, vengeful aura radiating from it. A cold aura that hinted at the lives it had taken. Steward Zhang licked his lips as he looked at the struggling Tao Tianyi, as if he were admiring the prize of a trapped, ferocious prey. Moonlight glinted off the knife's edge, bright and sharp like polished snow. What beautiful skin you have. I've never seen skin so white and finely chiseled, he sneered. I know you're from Wendaozong, and killing you would be a huge hassle. Wendaozong's influence is vast. How could I, a minor figure, dare provoke them? He continued, drooling slightly as he wiped the knife. But your skin is simply too exquisite. I can't resist the chance, especially since you voluntarily stayed to dine at the Xiang family. Missing this poisoning opportunity would be truly ungrateful. Dinner turned out to be tainted with poison. Seeing that Tao Tianyi was still struggling, Steward Zhang coaxed. Stop resisting. Even if you're not poisoned, you're no match for me. You're barely at the foundation establishment stage, and I'm in the late foundation stage. Though he said that, Steward Zhang didn't let his guard down. In Wendaozong, a foundation establishment cultivator must never be treated as ordinary. His intent was clear. Resistance would only make the skin adhere tighter, making it even harder to peel away. That was an experience born from harsh lessons. Relax. It's just a little pain. It'll pass quickly, he murmured, licking the blade of his knife as he moved closer to Tao Tianyi. Suddenly, Tao Tianyi sprang up, her entire body's spiritual energy surging and flowing freely. Clutching her thousand illusion umbrella, she struck a powerful blow straight to Steward Zhang's face. Caught completely off guard, Steward Zhang staggered, his smug expression replaced with shock. How is it that you didn't get poisoned? He demanded. Chapter 23. The Xiang family master's past. Thanks to Alliance leader Xianxia for the inevitable generous tips. How did you figure out he's a Huapi ghost? Tao Tianyi asked, repeating the question that Steward Zhang had never been able to answer even until death. Lu Yang swept away the battle remnants with a broom, gathering the Huapi ghost's ashes into a small clump, while Tao Tianyi dutifully brought out a dustpan to help. It's quite simple. Just recall what the parrot said. Who are you, and where is Steward Zhang? After we met Shang Yuan, she deliberately drove us away, warning us to stay clear of the Xiang family. That indicates that the current Steward Zhang is no longer the man Miss Xiang once knew, and that he is extremely dangerous. There are 3 possibilities for a change in Steward Zhang's identity. First, Steward Zhang might have been overtaken by a spirit. But how could such a predatory old ghost possess him for so long in the Xiang family? If it were me, the first thing after being overtaken would be to flee Taiping Township and seek out a feng shui treasure land to continue cultivation. Besides, Steward Zhang's innate talent isn't even remarkable. Someone who could overtake the Xiang family master would far surpass him. Lu Yang reasoned, putting himself in his shoes. Second, someone might have disguised themselves as Steward Zhang. But that doesn't make sense either. The Xiang family doesn't possess anything of great value. What would be the point of impersonating a steward? Does the imposter have an obsession with serving others? Even if the Xiang family did have valuable items, why not simply seize them outright? With his late foundation stage cultivation, he could stroll through Taiping Township without anyone batting an eye. The third possibility is that he is a Huapi ghost, a ghost cultivator who, in life, was human and, in death, became a ghost. Huapi ghosts are notorious for their obsession with collecting human skin. They camouflage themselves as humans, continuing the pretense, and live among people. Huapi ghosts, as a type of ghost cultivation, often suffer from certain psychological disorders. For example, a Huapi ghost detests having its true identity exposed. It will go to great lengths to convince itself that it's human, speaking and acting like a human. And when it grows tired of this charade, it simply sheds its old skin and adopts a new identity, repeating the cycle endlessly. Lu Yang's explanation was logical and well-reasoned, drawing admiring looks from Tao Tianyi, who regarded him with newfound respect. In that moment, there was no trace of the timid senior brother Lu she had seen on the flying vessel. Tao Tianyi possessed all the knowledge Lu Yang did, but he had far more time on his side. This difference lay in the sensitivity of their minds. Make sure you collect the ashes well. There are proof of completing the task, Lu Yang said as he produced a white porcelain jar about 2 palms high and carefully stored all the Huapi ghost's ashes inside. The Huapi ghost was an extension of the task. It was part of the assignment. Slaying the Huapi ghost clearly earned a greater reward than merely finding the parrot. Outside, the sound of hurried footsteps echoed. At the doorway, the running ceased, as if a few people, startled from sleep, had come to the East Wing room to check on things, yet dared not enter. The identities of those outside were easy to guess. Lu Yang called out loudly with a smile, "Master Xiang, please come in. The Huapi ghost has been slain. It's safe here now." With a loud creak, the wooden door swung open. Behind it stood the Xiang family master, accompanied by his wife, his daughter, and a retinue of servants. A total of 12 people, all showing expressions of having narrowly escaped death. "Thank you, you 2 immortal seniors, for slaying the demon and exorcising evil, thereby saving the lives of all 12 members of our Xiang family." The Xiang family master fell to his knees with a heavy thud, and everyone behind him followed suit. The Huapi ghost, with its erratic temper, once tired of masquerading as the steward, could have easily wiped out the entire Xiang family if allowed to remain unchecked. "Master, not at all. Exorcising demons and defending the righteous path is simply what we Wendaozong disciples are meant to do." Lu Yang, astonished by the impressive assembly before him, hurriedly helped everyone up one by one. "Please, let us forgive you, immortal seniors. The Huapi ghost is elusive and unpredictable. I don't even know where it came from," the Xiang family master pleaded. "Ever since that Huapi ghost began impersonating our steward, none of us have been allowed to leave the Xiang family. If anyone visits, we must not disclose any details. If it finds out, it's certain death for all of us." At that, Shang Yuan, standing nearby, looked contrite. By nature, she was a gentle young lady. All her cold, stern actions in her boudoir were merely a facade meant to keep Lu Yang and Tao Tianyi away from danger. The Shang family master continued, "It's just a pity. I have retreated to the countryside, and all my wealth and possessions have been exchanged for gold, silver, and jewels, which are of no use to you. If you have any needs, I am willing, even if it means selling off my assets, to fulfill them." The Shang family master wasn't being polite. He genuinely wished to repay the life-saving kindness bestowed upon him. To Wendaozong disciples, his amassed riches were practically worthless, like scrap metal. But Lu Yang indeed had a need. "I've heard that you encountered a great terror, a life-or-death crisis, while in the tombs, which made you decide to wash your hands of the whole cultivation world. Could you tell us what happened?" Tao Tianyi looked at the Shang family master with keen interest. Tomb raiding, life-or-death crises, great terrors, and giving up cultivation. These words alone promised a fascinating story, perhaps even a great opportunity. She loved nothing more than exploring mysterious, unknown places. Lu Yang, though not as eager for adventure as Tao Tianyi, still enjoyed hearing odd, astonishing tales. The Shang family master's eyes twitched. In truth, he was reluctant to recall those terrifying past events, but he could not refuse to answer a life-saving benefactor's questions. He dispersed the others, especially driving away Shang Yuan, who had tried to stick around secretly, leaving only Lu Yang and Tao Tianyi. "Today, what I'm about to say must never be spoken of to anyone else," he warned. Lu Yang and Tao Tianyi both nodded. Only then did the Shang family master begin recounting events from 20 years ago. 30 years ago, I, Shang Zhongtian, was already a minor celebrity in the tomb raiding world during my Qi training stage. so notorious, if not infamous, that people grew to despise me. The Shang family master folded his arms and recalled those glorious, golden days. Lu Yang and Tao Tianyi didn't quite understand why the Shang family master, Shang Zhongtian, spoke of these days with such pride. They did not know that among practitioners, competitors were also adversaries. In the world of tomb raiding, one is in constant rivalry with one's peers. The fact that Shang Zhongtian had such an excellent reputation naturally spoke to his exceptional skills. I have always been cautious in tomb raiding. I never dare to tamper with the great tombs or the ancient graves, because it's well known in our line that great tombs harbor ghosts, and ancient graves house immortals. Here, the ghosts mentioned are not the trivial Huapi ghosts of the Foundation stage, but rather the formidable beings who reign supreme among ghosts. Qi training cultivators are poor and pass on all valuable items to their juniors. There's hardly any inheritance left for proper burial rituals. I never dared to disturb the tombs of Qi training cultivators. They're not worth the trouble. On the other hand, Foundation establishment and Golden Core cultivators often leave behind a significant portion of their wealth to their descendants as part of their funerary rites, and that small portion is enough for me to make a tidy profit. But alas, those who frequently tread near rivers can never avoid getting their shoes wet. On one occasion, I was excavating what I believed was a Golden Core tomb. Only after digging did I discover it was, in fact, a tomb within a tomb. The Golden Core tomb was merely an accompanying grave, and the main tomb belonged to a nascent soul cultivator. According to our rules, one should never excavate a tomb far beyond one's own cultivation level. But I was so overcome with joy that I lost all sense of caution. At that moment, I believed I was at the pinnacle of the Qi training stage. If I ran, I could match the speed of a Foundation establishment cultivator. In tomb raiding, if there's no combat, roughly speaking, I would still be considered at the Foundation establishment stage. So excavating a nascent soul tomb that seemingly fell from the heavens wasn't too dangerous. Thus, after offering incense to our ancestral master and praying for his blessing, I set about excavating the nascent soul tomb. Chapter 24. The Great Terror. Shang Zhongtian spoke in a low voice. I crept along a cold, dry underground passage. On either side, there were fist-sized luminous pearls, whose light had shone for countless years, casting a faint blue glow that barely revealed one's silhouette, let alone facial features. I always felt as though someone was watching me. Their gaze made every hair on my body stand on end. Yet whenever I turned around, there was nothing there. I thought at first it was just my imagination. I followed that dim light through the rugged corridor until I reached the innermost main tomb. The scale of the main tomb was astonishing. I momentarily forgot that this was a dark, terrifying burial chamber. Shang Zhongtian paused, closing his eyes as if replaying every detail of the scene in his memory. When he finally resumed, his voice was slow and measured. I have never seen a tomb of such vast scale. The ceiling of the chamber soared like the vault of the heavens. Beneath that vast dome, stone figurines armed with sharp bronze spears stood as loyal guardians of the tomb's master, while countless funerary items were arrayed in a bagua formation. Each piece arranged in perfect order, in accord with the cosmic laws. He continued, even though the ancient corpse had been dead for hundreds of years, the dreadful aura emanating from its coffin still sent shivers down my spine, as if that old nascent soul monster were not truly dead but merely asleep, ready to awaken at any moment. Not one to hesitate, I made a snap decision. I stole away half of the funerary items. Just as I was about to leave, I heard footsteps echoing through the empty, cavernous tomb. The sound was so chilling, it made my blood run cold. He lowered his voice further, trembling. And then, I encountered a terror unlike anything I had ever faced in all my years in this trade. At this point, both Lu Yang and Tao Yaoyi leaned forward, eager to hear what came next. With a pained, quavering voice, Shang Zhongtian revealed, I was ambushed by a descendant of a nascent soul cultivator who had come to pay respects to our ancestral master. What? Lu Yang and Tao Yaoyi repeated in unison, though they couldn't quite process it immediately. Shang Zhongtian went on. Those people came bearing offerings and magical treasures to worship our ancient forebear, praying for the family's longevity, for future generations of geniuses, for success in their examinations. On the way to the ancestral tomb, they noticed me stealing from the tomb, and they swarmed in, seizing me. It was utterly horrifying. Whenever I think back on it, cold sweat breaks out on my forehead. After a pause, Lu Yang remarked frankly, I suppose their reaction was understandable. After all, if your family had not been slain on the spot, that would have been considered proper conduct. Tao Yao Yi then asked, "Is this what you meant by the Great Terror?" Scratching his head, Shang Zhongtian seemed puzzled by their reaction. Exactly. What could be more terrifying than sneaking into a tomb and then being caught by the very descendants of the tomb's master? "And then," prompted Lu Yang. "Then I was beaten soundly, so much so that my cultivation level plummeted from the peak of the Qi training stage down to its mid-level. The authorities threw me into prison, made me repay everything I had stolen, and I ended up spending 10 years behind bars. When I was finally released, I vowed to wash my hands of this life of crime and start anew. Never again to involve myself in such misdeeds. Honestly," he added with a bitter laugh, "I was too ashamed to face my peers afterwards." A long silence followed, leaving Lu Yang and Tao Yao Yi at a loss for words. After Shang Zhongtian personally buried the skinless corpse of Steward Zhang, he invited Lu Yang and Tao Yao Yi to stay overnight. Tao Yao Yi refused outright. If it weren't for the need to lure out the Huapi ghost, she wouldn't have chosen to remain. For two Foundation establishment disciples, a night's travel is no great burden. Before leaving, Lu Yang found Shang Yuan and patted the parrot's head. Had Taiping Township not mistaken that parrot for a demon beast, they'd never have had the chance to come to the Shang family to resolve the Huapi ghost incident. "This parrot is rather fine. Maybe it really is a demon beast. It should be well nurtured," Shang Yuan remarked in surprise, quickly asking for more details. "It's hard to tell in the early stages. Its true strength is so vague that it's difficult to distinguish it from an ordinary beast. I couldn't tell whether it was a class A, B, C, or D demon," Lu Yang explained. "However, after Little Green left your place, it didn't fly far away. Instead, it kept circling over Taiping Township. It seemed to know your family was in danger and never approached your house. Perhaps it was just a coincidence, or maybe it was a sign of awakened spiritual intelligence. Who can say for sure?" Lu Yang smiled and said no more. Shang Zhongtian, feeling that his hospitality had been inadequate, after all, he had saved the lives of all 12 members of the Shang family, offered, "This is my written account of tomb raiding. If you don't mind, please take it. It might come in handy someday." He produced from his bosom a blue, string-like book and presented it to the two of them. Lu Yang accepted it politely, and after a brief farewell, the two departed. On the way back, Lu Yang asked, "Would you like this tomb raiding account?" Tao Yao Yi shook her head. She wasn't involved in tomb raiding and didn't know what she'd do with such a thing. Lu Yang, too, thought it of little use, but he kept it anyway. "By the way, why didn't you tell me in advance when you were poisoning my room?" Tao Yao Yi couldn't help but complain. Luckily, as one with an immortal body, her resistance to all kinds of toxins was extremely high. Otherwise, she might have ended up with foot rot just like Steward Zhang. After all, can a beautiful maiden really suffer from foot rot? Lu Yang shrugged. "I told you everything." "When?" "During dinner, by means of a look. So you weren't just too short to reach the vegetables and needed me to pass you a plate? I'm not that shallow." Eventually, they all returned successfully to Wendaozong. Coincidentally, Meng Jingzhou had just completed his task and was complaining to a senior brother who had posted the assignment. "Disciples, Meng Jingzhou, your task was rather simple. Why did a fox demon end up complaining that your attitude was problematic, refusing to cooperate?" The senior brother asked, perplexed. "Senior brother, you should investigate that fox demon. I provided a dual cultivation technique in the past, and she even demanded to verify it, insisting on training alongside me to test its authenticity." An angry Meng Jingzhou retorted, "Had I not been bound by my pure yang nature, I would have trained with her myself." One couldn't tell whether he was angry at having missed a chance for a rendezvous because of his pure yang nature, or if he was incensed that the fox demon had underestimated his sincere pursuit of the Tao. Seeing the senior brother's expression of exasperation, Lu Yang stepped in to mediate. "Senior brother, we have successfully completed the demon beast task." Lu Yang then detailed how the people of Taiping Township had mistaken a parrot for a talking demon beast, how he and Tao Yao Yi had inadvertently exposed their weaknesses to lure the Huapi ghost into action, and how they ultimately resolved it. When he finished, he handed the ashes of the Huapi ghost to the senior brother. "Your performance on your first task was exceptional. You're truly impressive." The senior brother looked at Lu Yang with newfound respect. When he had issued that task, he had thought it would be easy. He never expected there to be hidden complications. Hearing how Lu Yang had precisely administered the antidote and swiftly neutralized the threat, the senior brother was even more impressed. If the Huapi ghost hadn't been poisoned, subduing it might have required a long, arduous battle, and it might even have escaped. Most importantly, this junior carried a toxin that could cause foot rot. Remembering this, the senior brother discreetly sat a bit farther away. You two have exceeded the task's requirements. Your original contribution points are quadrupled, bringing you to 120 points, and Sister Tao Yao Yi, for your supporting role in this task, you receive 90 points. Tao Yao Yi had no objection. In this task, Lu Yang's role was absolutely crucial. She had served as the bait. Chapter 25. The Bizarre Exchange Ledger. Contribution points serve as an internal currency within One Daozong. They are used to purchase items, pay for meals in the cafeteria, and conduct trades among fellow disciples. Additionally, certain special rewards in the task hall can only be obtained with contribution points. For example, there is the one-day experience as the sect master of One Daozong reward, which is wildly popular yet unaffordable for most. As the name implies, redeeming this reward allows one to act as sect master for a day, attending meetings with the elders, managing sect affairs, and enjoying the privileges of the highest leadership in one of the 5 great immortal sects. The benefits are many, but unfortunately, the required contribution points are astronomical, so high that no one has been able to redeem it yet. It's said that several senior brothers attempted to pool their contribution points for a taste of that experience, but disputes broke out over who would serve as sect master. Arguments escalated into physical altercations, and in the end, they were all carted off to Danding Peak for healing, drawing a crowd of onlookers. Now, those same senior brothers are out on long-term tasks and haven't returned to One Daozong for quite some time. Take Medicine King Spirit Liquid, for instance. It is touted as a rare elixir exclusively refined by the top echelons of One Daozong. It can be used both internally and externally, strengthening the body, enhancing one's qi, solidifying the soul, and consolidating cultivation. Although it costs a high number of contribution points, its sales rank remains at the top, and it is extremely popular among senior disciples. In battle, a sip of it guarantees full recovery of energy and power, accelerates wound healing, and everyone who has tried it speaks highly of it. Then there's Flying Vessel Accident Insurance, available for just 1 contribution point. Wait a minute, why is there insurance for a flying vessel? Lu Yong wondered, finding the term rather inauspicious. The senior brother who had posted the task explained matter-of-factly, "It's quite normal. No mode of transportation is 100% safe." Chapter 26. The Origins of the Meng Family. Within One Daozong, there are numerous enterprises offering every kind of food, entertainment, and leisure. A reminder that cultivation isn't about locking oneself away in isolation. Endless entertainment industries exist because rigid, monotonous practice alone will never make one an immortal. Take, for example, the Sichuan hot pot mentioned earlier, or the 100 Fragrance Pavilion that the 3 of us are about to visit. I heard that One Daozong wasn't always like this. In the old days, cultivation was solely about cultivation. No one indulged in these miscellaneous worldly distractions that might affect one's heart for the Tao. Later, when the old sect master and the former elders retired, and the new sect master along with the 8 elders assumed leadership, One Daozong was instantly rejuvenated. They encouraged everyone to cultivate when needed and to relax when the time came. A balanced approach of work and rest. In their own words, if such distractions can influence one's heart for the Tao, then what is the point of striving for immortality at all? I feel that One Daozong's current ethos is awry. Once I rise to a high position within the sect, I'll see to it that things are set right. Inside the 100 Fragrance Pavilion, the atmosphere is electric. Many One Daozong disciples, after completing their tasks or enduring long, strenuous cultivation, gather here to feast, exchange insights on cultivation, share mission experiences, and more. Not to mention, the flavors here alone far exceed those of the sect cafeteria. Waiter, table number 9 as previously reserved, 3 sets of cutlery, and serve the dishes exactly as I ordered before. Certainly, sir. Please watch closely. Upon ascending to the 2nd floor, the enticing aromas from other tables waft over, filling the air so richly that one's appetite is instantly roused, and saliva begins to flow involuntarily. I stared at the waiter for quite some time. Only after he disappeared down the stairway did I finally look away, and I realized I couldn't even discern his cultivation level. Both Tao Yao Yi and I exchanged curious glances. We were both intrigued by this place. After all, I normally dine at Tianmen Peak, and Tao Yao Yi is skilled enough to cook for herself. There's usually no need to come here. Meng Jingzhou, who was very familiar with such places, remarked, "You haven't been here before, have you? Let me tell you, the food here is abundant. There's nothing you can't imagine and nothing you can't eat. Just take a look at the menu." I took the menu and flipped to the first page, and was soon captivated by its contents. The first page didn't list any dishes. It simply featured one bold notice. "This restaurant sells only finished dishes, not raw ingredients. We apologize for any inconvenience." The second page contained the actual menu, with each dish priced in both contribution points and spirit stones. For instance, steamed thunder tribulation essence, the refined essence left behind when a cultivator undergoes tribulation. It's highly beneficial for comprehending the Tao of thunder. Braised ice abyss giant elephant, an ice abyss giant elephant, native to the frigid extremes of the far north and a dominant species there. An adult can shatter a glacier with one mighty step and withstand avalanches without faltering. A tomato scrambled eggs, our restaurant offers a variety of eggs, including ordinary chicken eggs, 8 treasure chicken eggs, and golden-winged rock eggs. Upon seeing the prices, I couldn't help but be astonished. These items clearly aren't meant for foundation establishment cultivators like us. Even we couldn't afford them. However, there are also dishes within our reach, for example, stir-fried fasting pills. Noticing my gradually furrowing brows, Tao Yaoyi assumed I was frightened by the prices and asked with a smile, "What's wrong? Did you encounter a problem?" I replied, "You see, the concept of fasting here is that one consumes the natural qi of the heavens and earth as a substitute for food. By taking fasting pills, you're essentially fasting." "Exactly," Tao Yaoyi nodded. "Then tell me, if one eats stir-fried fasting pills, does that count as having eaten, or is it still considered fasting?" Both Tao Yaoyi and Meng Jingzhou were momentarily stunned, initially thinking the question was absurd, but on reflection, it struck them as oddly profound. We called the waiter over and asked if he knew the answer. Having worked here for so long, he admitted that this was the first time any customer had ever asked such a question. Was it because the service here is so leisurely that he has too much time on his hands? I then asked, "The dishes here aren't cheap. Are your contribution points sufficient?" I wasn't overly concerned about the fasting pill dilemma, but rather worried we might run out of funds for dinner. Meng Jingzhou, having completed only 3 tasks in total, hadn't earned many contribution points yet. In theory, we'd treat ourselves to a feast, and then perhaps share the expense by doing extra work, something that seems to suit Meng Jingzhou's style. "What currency should we use?" he declared in a tone befitting a man of means. Tao Yaoyi glanced at me in surprise. "Haven't you heard of the Meng family?" I was puzzled. Is Meng Jingzhou's family really that famous? The central continent is vast. Cultivators could spend their entire lives exploring it, and many families bear the surname Meng. I had no idea which Meng family Meng Jingzhou belonged to. I'd known him for so long, yet he had never spoken of his family's background. When Meng Jingzhou first came to Wendaozong for the trial, he wasn't accompanied by any elder. I even assumed his family had fallen on hard times, and that he, a single spiritual root prodigy, was expected to revive the family. It's the most famous one. My pupils constricted in surprise as I realized which Meng family he belonged to. There are many Meng families, but the most renowned is the imperial city Meng family. Is it the one that, together with the ancestors of the Xia dynasty, once fought for supremacy and established the Daxia dynasty? I was utterly astonished. Imperial city Meng family has tremendous clout. 10,000 years ago, during chaotic times, it's often said that heroes emerge from turmoil. The ancestors of the Meng family and those of the Xia dynasty rose up, waged wars across the land, and forged a legendary saga that remains popular in tea house storytelling and on stage to this day. 10,000 years ago, the previous dynasty, plagued by both internal strife and external threats, eventually collapsed, marking the beginning of a new era of chaos. Barbarians and sea beasts abandoned their respective territories, each vying for a share of the central continent's abundant resources. The ancestors of the Meng family emerged from their eastern homeland, waging campaigns east to west over countless miles, defeating barbarians who fled into the demon domain, forcing sea beasts to retreat to the eastern sea, and compelling traders and rebellious heroes alike to submit. For 1,000 years, the ancestors of the Meng family led their armies to conquer half of the central continent, becoming one of only 2 hegemons in the realm. The other hegemon was the ancestor of the Xia dynasty, who conquered the other half. The Xia dynasty's ancestors similarly expelled barbarians and demon beasts, ended the era of chaos, and ruled half the land. Their achievements were so closely matched that it was hard to say which was superior. At that time, People believed the two hegemons would either rule half the central continent each or eventually engage in an all-out war for dominance. Thus, strategists from all walks of life began their war simulations, calculating which side held the greater advantage and how the weaker could overcome the stronger. What no one expected was that both the Meng family ancestor and the Xia dynasty ancestor agreed that the continent had already been in chaos for 1,000 years, with endless suffering and bloodshed, a scene akin to a living hell. They feared that if the war continued, who could say how many more years of chaos would ensue, and how many lives would be lost? They fought not for the sake of royal power, but to restore peace to the world. Thus, the ancestors of the Meng family and those of the Xia dynasty abandoned their armies, and as cultivators, engaged in a titanic battle beneath the vast cosmos. A battle so cataclysmic that the heavens and the earth trembled, the sun and the moon were darkened, and great stars fell. In the end, the Xia dynasty's ancestor proved superior, emerging as the ultimate victor. The Meng family ancestor, accepting defeat, graciously ceded his position. Immediately thereafter, the Xia dynasty's ancestor publicly declared that as long as the Daxia dynasty existed for even one day, the Meng family would never perish. And indeed, after the establishment of the Daxia dynasty, the Meng family settled in the imperial city and was never suppressed. Chapter 27. Breakthrough at the 100 Fragrance Pavilion. Royal families and the Meng family have always been closely linked. Intermarriage is common. Time and again, when people believed that the Meng family's legacy had been exhausted and that no worthy descendants remained to uphold its mantle, a new genius would emerge from nowhere, rising to shoulder the family's burden and continuing its immortal legend. Thus, a rumor spread that the Meng family had intertwined its fate with that of the Daxia dynasty, so that as long as the Daxia dynasty existed, the Meng family would never perish. Not so exaggerated. Meng Jingzhou laughed modestly. I never expected you all to guess that I'm the genius who burst onto the scene for the Meng family. No, we don't actually think you're a genius, Lu Yang replied honestly. After all, if the irreverent Meng Jingzhou were to shoulder the family's great responsibility, then the immortal legend of the Meng family would, in my eyes, end right there. If we're talking about true genius, then it's me, Lu Yang, the future pillar who will uphold the might of One Daozong. The two of us traded boasts and slight jabs at each other, completely forgetting about Tao Yao Yi, whose talent even surpasses that of a single spiritual root or sword spiritual root cultivator. But before we could bicker for long, an overwhelming, primeval aura erupted from below, sweeping through the entire 100 Fragrance Pavilion. Had the pavilion not been so sturdy, that aura alone could have brought the building crashing down. For a moment, the three of us felt as if our heads had been struck by a sledgehammer. Our minds went utterly blank, and it felt as though a gigantic hand had seized our innards, compressing them into a tight bundle. The discomfort was indescribable. Even those nearby who were of a higher cultivation, some already at the golden core stage, only managed a brief gasp before regaining themselves. Has someone broken through to the nascent soul stage? A nascent soul stage senior sister, seemingly unaffected, gasped softly as she carefully sensed the wild, unbridled aura emanating from the breakthrough. It carried the unmistakable flavor of the ancient dragon clan. The food at the 100 Fragrance Pavilion isn't merely delicious. A single dish here might boost one's cultivation or even help one's techniques circulate an extra few cycles. Trifling matters by themselves, but when combined wisely, the synergistic effect is remarkable. I'd long heard that a meal at the 100 Fragrance Pavilion could catalyze a breakthrough to a major realm. I thought it was just a rumor. But today, seeing it for myself, it's undeniably true. Only, I wonder which junior has such incredible luck to break through right here. Normally, breakthroughs require seclusion and a quiet environment for proper protection of one's cultivation. Amid the clamorous noise and myriad distractions of the 100 Fragrance Pavilion, it seems nearly impossible to progress. That someone managed to break through under such conditions alone proves just how potent the nourishing power of the food here is. At one point, the waiter pressed down lightly on something, and suddenly the oppressive aura characteristic of nascent soul stage vanished. Everyone exhaled in relief and then looked on in astonishment at the waiter. To them, the waiter seemed only to be at the golden core stage, but this unassuming act clearly exceeded that level. It turned out the waiter's true cultivation was merely an illusion. Someone murmured to a companion in hushed tones. I once heard from an elder that when the 100 Fragrance Pavilion first opened 1,000 years ago, that very same person was the waiter. 1,000 years have passed, and he's still the waiter. His appearance hasn't changed at all. While it's common for a cultivator's appearance to remain unchanged, 1,000 years without even the slightest alteration is exceedingly rare. The waiter, seemingly oblivious to the whispered comments, wore an apologetic expression as he said, "I'm sorry. Perhaps one of the diners was so excited by their breakthrough that they couldn't contain their aura. Please forgive us." A senior brother who had just entered the Golden Core stage recalled the breakthrough aura he had experienced, and his eyes lit up. This aura exudes a trace of wildness, reminiscent of the ancient dragon clan reappearing. It must be that a body-cultivating senior just broke through. Let's quickly meditate on this aura. It might greatly enhance our physical strength. Absolutely. That concludes today's epic story from Xianxia Webnovel Audio. If you found the journey as thrilling as we did, please hit like, subscribe to our channel, and enable notifications for more mystical adventures. We're excited to hear your thoughts. Leave a comment below about your favorite part. See you in the next chapter.